As you get started with your software development, you will need to choose what process methodology you will implement. There are essentially 4 main process methodologies that are popular today, and you will have to select which one will work best for your startup. If you have the expertise, you can mix and match aspects of multiple tech methodologies to create a custom process for your startup. Do not get bogged down on processes and tools, and keep things simple in the beginning. Focus on hiring competent developers instead. Hi everyone, this is Vivek Shrivastava. Welcome to my channel. Today I have for you a lessons learned video where I will speak about some of the different methodologies that exist for software development and the pros and cons of each. This is going to be a software-centric video, but I think that most non-software-centric startups will also benefit from this, as they will likely have some amount of software development involved in their startup, like a website or an app. While there are many development methodologies, the world of process methodologies can be divided into 4 main categories, which are an iterative-based approach characterized by the Agile process, a cumulative style, which is the Waterfall process, a process that caters to speed and frequently changing requirements, which is the rapid application deployment process, and a process that caters to maintaining an already released software in production with high efficiency and reliability, which is the DevOps process. If you've been following my sequence of videos, you will have completed a trial run of development for your startup, app, or website, and will be getting ready to ramp up your development. But the question arises, what development methodology should you choose? In my previous incarnation in the corporate world, I advised Fortune 500 companies on process methodologies and worked to optimize their efficiency. But the experience I had at those companies was for organizations that had entire departments in place and software that was already developed and in production. The startup world is very different, and I had to adapt to the difference myself when I began my startup's development. And that is the reason for this video. While there are many resources out there that discuss software process methodologies, not many provide content from the point of view of a startup, where resources, time, and money are limited, and the number of developers may be as few as just one programmer. The textbook methodology techniques do not work well in these conditions. Therefore, to decide what approach to take, you will want to understand the main methodologies and then decide what to do. With my past experience, I actually picked and chose aspects of each methodology type and created a custom process for my startup. This, of course, is not something someone who does not have extensive IT experience should attempt to do. I would recommend keeping things simple and uncomplicated, at least in the beginning. Focus on the many other challenges that you as a startup founder have before you. Having said that, let us have a closer look at the 4 main process types in use today. First, the most popular process, Agile. The Agile methodology is essentially an iterative approach. The functionality of the software being built is broken down into small components called stories, and each story is built and tested and then reviewed by key stakeholders and upon approval considered complete. After one story is complete, another story is built, and so on. The stories are combined into epics, and then multiple epics are combined and integrated to construct the complete software. Stories and epics are really just fancy names for essentially subsections and sections of the software. To me, the 2 main benefits of this approach are 1, the iterative style where a portion is built at a time, and 2, the review of each portion by key stakeholders. This way, any mistakes or deviation from what should have been built are quickly detected and corrected. However, the disadvantages of Agile are that the team members participating in it will have to be knowledgeable about the Agile process. This will make finding the appropriate developers and staff more challenging. Next, we have the Waterfall methodology, in which the entire software project is developed in one go. The entire design is performed in one big step. The entire development is performed in one big step. The entire testing is performed in one big step. You get the idea. The advantage of the waterfall process is that it is essentially simple and no extra training of the team members is required to perform it. It does work well if your requirements will not be changing much, which is generally true for smaller updates. The problem with Waterfall is that it does not work for a situation where your requirements will keep changing a lot, as a large amount of work that has already been completed will have to be reworked. Typically, startups experience a lot of changes and require a process that accommodates that, and the Waterfall style does not do that. Therefore, I recommend that you do not use Waterfall for your startup software development. Next, we have Rapid Application Development, or RAD. RAD focuses on prototyping and quick feedback with less emphasis on process planning. In RAD, multiple iterations and updates are made to the software quickly and reviewed by the business stakeholders. The idea is to design, review, and iterate features and functionalities quickly without creating detailed requirements. Multiple iterations of prototypes are created and reviewed by the business stakeholders. And once finalized, the detailed construction is then undertaken. RAD works well for small to medium-sized projects that have dedicated business subject matter experts that will put in the time and effort to review each of the iterations made by the developers. The advantages of RAD is that when it is executed properly, the software is developed quickly and cheaply. The disadvantage of RAD is that skilled developers and dedicated business stakeholders are required to implement it effectively. As most startups do not have these resources in place, I would not recommend RAD for startups. Finally, we have the DevOps process. This essentially combines the departments of software development and IT operations to provide an effective methodology for the management of software that has already been developed and released to the end users. The advantage of DevOps when implemented correctly is efficiency in development of new releases to the end users and fewer defects released in production. The disadvantage of DevOps is higher costs and increased complexity in coordinating multiple departments. Generally, for startups, a formal DevOps methodology is not required. Of course, you will need to implement an effective system of releasing software to your end users, but you don't really need to follow a rigorous DevOps system in the beginning. There are many other methodologies for software development, but they are generally variations on these four themes. For example, Scrum and Kanban are essentially variations of Agile. So which methodology should you choose? I personally feel that Agile is best suited to startups. However, I also feel that you can, in the beginning, implement a section-by-section approach using simple tools that are cheaply available or even free. Simply select a section of your website or app, perform the design, development, and testing on it. Then move on to another section and so on until all sections are complete, and integrate the finished sections into a final product and perform final testing on the completed software. Once you release to the end users, you can implement a more formal methodology. If you have IT experience and an adequate understanding of these methodologies, you can take aspects of each methodology that benefits your startup software development and incorporate them into a custom process that is a best fit for your startup. If, on the other hand, you do not have the required experience, stick to Agile or the simpler section-by-section approach. An example of mixing and matching is to perform a multiple waterfall strategy where a comparatively large amount of functionality is developed in a larger effort as opposed to stories and epics. This way, you still have an iterative approach, but it is not quite as segmented as Agile. Finally, do not get bogged down on process methodologies. You may have team members that are fanatical about a certain process. This is probably because they have past experience with it, and it is all that they know. Do not be swayed by them if you feel that they are not providing you with the correct advice. If you're confused, consider hiring an expert in IT process to advise you on this matter. In my experience with my own startup, I found that process wasn't the main problem, but finding and hiring competent people was a far bigger challenge. If you have competent developers, they will make any process work properly for you. So that's all I have for software process methodologies. In this video, I wanted to explain the main types of software processes and the pros and cons for each for the startup world. I hope you found the content useful. Please comment below and provide your feedback. See you all next time. Take care and good luck, everyone.